The Galactic Union Chamber was a cathedral of arrogance. It stretched high above the gathered delegations, banners of countless civilizations swaying in the artificial breeze. At the far end, the central dais glowed with a pale blue light, casting long shadows across the curved rows of alien representatives. Somewhere in that crowd sat Earth's ambassador, a small, gray-haired woman in a plain Navy uniform. She looked utterly unimpressive, and that was exactly how they wanted to see her. It had been a century since the Outer Rim War. Humanity had been driven back, stripped of our fleet, forced into a fragile peace under the watchful eyes of those who had once been our allies. We were called a junior race, tolerated only because the Union feared what would happen if we ever fought to the last. They didn't understand we had already fought to the last. And lost. At least, that's what they thought. Today's agenda was a trade conference, but it had quickly turned into something else. An Avarix admiral, scaled, towering, and all teeth, leaned forward, letting his voice drip contempt. Perhaps humanity's request for expanded security patrols would be more reasonable if they still possessed any credible deterrent. The chamber rippled with laughter. Representatives from half a dozen species leaned in to trade jabs. Earth has no teeth left. A cub without claws should not demand the lion's share. Perhaps they should rely on mercenary protection, as hatchlings do. The ambassador did not flinch. She simply folded her hands and waited for the noise to die down. When it did, her voice was quiet, almost gentle. The Union has always valued stability. Humanity values it as well. But stability requires balance. The laughter came again, sharper this time. Balance. They thought we were talking about trade tariffs and escort ships. They had no idea. The 11th sector was a dead place. Everyone knew it, or claimed to. It was a region of warped gravity wells, drifting debris fields, and pockets of radiation that fried navigation systems. No one charted it. No one traded through it. And no one, they said, survived entering it. During the war, humanity's last great battleship, the Aegis of Dawn, had been lost there. The record said it went down fighting, holding back an enemy fleet so that civilian transports could escape. All hands, presumed dead. It had been a noble story, the kind you put in history books. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was that the Aegis of Dawn had survived. Damaged, crippled, yes, but still breathing. And the captain had made a choice. Instead of returning to a galaxy where humanity was broken and under watch, they stayed hidden. The ship became a ghost in the graveyard of the 11th sector. They salvaged, rebuilt, and waited. For a century, they waited. The conference was interrupted by a chime. The Union's security monitors lit up with an urgent broadcast. Outlying systems near the trade world of Rolaris were under siege by a pirate armada. Thousands of civilian vessels were trapped. The Union's nearest patrol fleets were days away. A few delegates muttered about emergency mobilization. Others shrugged. Pirates would be pirates. The human ambassador only tilted her head slightly. I believe the situation will resolve itself shortly. Confusion. A few chuckles. Then the first real-time holofeeds came in. From the black curtain of the 11th sector, a ripple of distorted space emerged. Energy readings spiked so high they overloaded the nearest sensors. A massive shadow rolled forward, its silhouette blotting out the stars. At first, the alien commentators assumed it was some freak cosmic phenomenon, a collapsing wormhole, maybe. Then the shape resolved. Hull plating gleamed with angular human design, but it was different. Bulkier. Heavier. Bristling with weapon emplacements that had never existed on any known human vessel. Across its hull, a name burned in silver, Aegis of Dawn. The pirates never stood a chance. It began with a single lance of blue-white light that sheared through the lead battleship like it was paper. Then came the railgun fire, hypersonic slugs punching clean holes through cruiser after cruiser. Smaller craft tried to swarm the giant, but point defense systems shredded them into molten fragments before they could close the distance. In under 12 minutes, the entire pirate armada was gone. Not routed. Gone. And still, the Aegis of Dawn hung there, silent, as if daring the galaxy to say something. Back in the Union chamber, the alien delegates stared, their earlier smirks gone. The ambassador stood slowly, straightening her jacket. Her voice carried with a weight it had never shown before. The Union declared the 11th sector a graveyard. You were right. It is where you buried us. But graves. She glanced at the live feed as the Aegis of Dawn turned, its engines flaring with power no one could identify. Are where the dead are meant to stay. We are not dead. The feed cut to the ship's bridge. The captain, weathered, eyes like steel, spoke to the galaxy. We never forgot. We only waited. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy was a different place. The Union began to speak more carefully to human diplomats. Patrol routes were quietly redrawn to include human escort ships. Rumors spread faster than official statements, stories about how the Aegis of Dawn had been refitted with hybrid technology scavenged from every foe humanity had ever faced, about how its stealth systems allowed it to appear anywhere without warning. No one knew if there were more ships hidden out there, sleeping in dead sectors, waiting for their moment. Humanity never confirmed. We didn't have to. Because sometimes, all it takes is one shadow in the dark, one ghost returned from the grave, to make an entire galaxy remember what it had chosen to forget. And the galaxy would remember the day the Aegis of Dawn surfaced from the 11th sector for the rest of its days. When I was a boy, Earth's sky was filled with other people's ships. Not ours. They were patrol craft from the Galactic Alliance, painted in the colors of protection. But everyone knew the truth, they were wardens. The war had ended before I was born, but the scars were everywhere. The Outer Rim campaigns had stripped us bare. Humanity had fought too well, too fiercely, and the Alliance didn't like how close we'd come to winning, before we lost. So they made a decree, no human vessel may travel beyond the 10th sector. And they made sure we had no ships worth taking there. The 11th was off limits to everyone. They called it the Black Zone, a place of collapsed stars, fractured wormholes, and drifting minefields from wars older than memory. Even their bravest captains wouldn't chart it. That suited us just fine. For decades, they kept us penned in. Whenever our scientists made a breakthrough, the Alliance took it for the safety of all races. Whenever our leaders spoke of defense, they reminded us that they were our defense. And yet, in the shadows, something else was happening. Small freighters vanished. Research crews never returned from routine trips near the border. Cargo containers were quietly redirected to classified destinations. People called them ghost stories, whispers of a forged fleet building in exile. The Alliance laughed them off. They laughed a lot, back then. It was in my 32nd year that the laughing stopped. The event began in the capital system of Virilia, seat of the Alliance High Tribunal. I was there as a translator for the human delegation, watching from the public gallery. The hearing wasn't about war, not directly. It was about restricting our already pathetic travel rights. Some alien senator claimed humans were aggressively repopulating fringe worlds, and that our species' natural combativeness made us a risk. They wanted our colonies moved. The chamber was vast, every tier packed with delegates from dozens of worlds. The air shimmered with their colors, scaled skin, feathered crests, glistening chitin. And then, as always, came the insults. Humans multiply like spores. A leash would be merciful. Perhaps Sector 7 should be their pen. The laughter swelled, a chorus of superiority. Our representative, Ambassador Rain, did not rise to speak. She simply pressed a hand to her earpiece, as if listening to some distant voice, and said, "We will not be moved." The chamber roared again, but not with laughter this time. Because at that moment, every warning klaxon in Virilia screamed to life. Alliance holodisplays lit up across the chamber, an unauthorized hyperspatial breach had just opened in the 11th sector. The Black Zone. The feeds came in shaky at first, static rippling through. Then the image cleared, and the galaxy saw it. A rift yawned open in the fabric of space, light bending in ways no physics could explain. From the distortion emerged a shape the size of a city, its armor a black so deep it seemed to drink the stars. It was human. And it was nothing like the ships we'd had before. The vessel moved with impossible grace for its size. Along its flanks, colossal cannons retracted from armored housings, glowing faint blue. Entire weapon platforms rotated into place, kinetic, energy, missile, the complete language of destruction. Alliance tactical AI scrambled to match the hull against known records, but no match was found. Then the name appeared across its prow, Iron Tempest. The pirates who'd been preying on the fringe worlds, a fleet so large the Alliance had been considering intervention for years, were gathered in the system of Hekros, directly between the Tempest and the rest of civilized space. The battle lasted 13 minutes. We all watched in stunned silence. First came a single lance of plasma, tearing the pirate flagship in half. Escape pods launched, but the Tempest's point defense fire intercepted every last one. The rest of the fleet tried to scatter, but then came the shockwave, a weapon I had no name for. It was like the void itself folded, swallowing entire ships without explosion or wreckage. One instant they were there, the next, the stars shone where they had been. The final act was almost cruel. The Tempest deployed would look like a swarm of drones, thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They moved like a living storm, stripping hulls down to their skeletal frames before disappearing back into the carrier bays. When it was over, nothing remained of the pirate armada but drifting metal dust. In the tribunal chamber, the silence was suffocating. Ambassador Rain finally stood. Sector 11 was never a death zone. It was a forge. You barred us from your borders. You kept us in a cage. And in the dark, we built teeth again. One of the Alliance admirals, pale with disbelief, leaned toward his mic. That vessel violates every treaty. Rain cut him off with a smile that was pure ice. We signed your treaties as a broken people. We are not broken now. The holofeed shifted to the Tempest's bridge. Its captain, a man with silver at his temples and eyes like forged steel, addressed every open channel in the system. To all Alliance vessels, you are not our targets. Today. But understand this, humanity will never again ask permission to defend itself. If you threaten our colonies, if you threaten our people, the storm will come for you. And it will not stop. The rift reopened behind the Tempest, swallowing it whole. For hours after, the chamber buzzed with frantic private calls. I saw fear, their real fear, in the eyes of races who had treated us like pests. Rumors exploded across the net. The Tempest had been in construction for 80 years in the heart of the Black Zone, shielded by anomalies the Alliance didn't dare cross. Its weapons were hybrid designs, incorporating stolen tech from every race that had ever fought us. The truth didn't matter. What mattered was that we had done it. We had built something they couldn't stop. I've never seen the Tempest again. But in the months since, no one has spoken in the tribunal about moving human colonies. No one has mocked our defenses. And no one has sent a patrol into the 11th sector. The Alliance still watches us, but their gaze is different now. Measured. Respectful. They know the Black Zone isn't empty. And they know the storm is still out there, waiting. My father used to tell me stories about the Revenant. When I was young, I thought they were bedtime tales, the kind you whisper to make children dream of heroes. He would sit by the window in our cramped colony quarters, the hum of alien freighters passing overhead, and his voice would drop to a reverent hush. One day, son, she'll come back. And when she does, the stars will tremble. I didn't believe him. No one did. A century ago, before the Dominion broke our fleets, the USS Revenant had been humanity's pride, the first stealth warship capable of cloaking itself from every known detection system. She was fast, vicious, and commanded by Captain Elias Cade, the kind of man who didn't know the meaning of surrender. They said she was lost in the 11th Nebula during the final year of the war, escorting a convoy of refugees. Enemy ships swarmed them. The Revenant vanished into the storm of charged particles and gravitational eddies, taking the fight with her. No one ever saw her again. The Dominion claimed to have destroyed her, and the galaxy believed them. Humanity, broken and scattered, was allowed to survive, but only under strict Dominion oversight. Our fleets dismantled, our colonies taxed into poverty, our history rewritten to make us the villains. We became servants in our own systems. And the Revenant became a ghost story. I grew up under their banners. I learned their language before my own. I worked their docks, fixing the ships they used to keep us in check. And every year, on Dominion Victory Day, they paraded their fleets through the skies above their capital, Vorn Prime, a show of power meant to remind every conquered species that resistance was hopeless. It was during one of those parades that the ghost came back. It started like any other Victory Day. I was on a maintenance platform overlooking the central space lane, watching their warships glide in perfect formation. The crowd below roared as massive Dominion dreadnoughts passed overhead, their hulls gleaming in the sun. Then the alarms began. It wasn't the wailing of civilian sirens. This was the deep, chest-shaking tone of military alert. The parade formation shifted abruptly. Fighters peeled away, destroyers moved into defensive positions. I saw commanders on the bridge decks gesturing sharply, scanning the skies. And then, from nothing, it appeared. At first, it was just a ripple in the air like heat haze bending light. Then the shape resolved. A ship. No, the ship. Black hull, angular lines, forward prow shaped like a predator's beak. She was massive, larger than any warship humanity had ever fielded. Across her flank, letters burned in white, USS Revenant. I don't know how I knew it was her. Maybe it was the way she moved, deliberate, unhurried, like a blade sliding from its sheath. Or maybe it was the voice that came over every open comm channel in orbit. This is Captain Elias Cade, commanding officer of the United Systems ship Revenant. To the Vorn Dominion, you will stand down. I swear the temperature dropped in that moment. The Dominion's flagship opened fire. Massive energy bolts lanced through space, aimed directly at the Revenant. But before they hit, her hull shimmered and bent, the blasts passing through as if she were made of smoke. She returned fire once. A single kinetic round, no energy signature, just raw mass punched through the flagship from bow to stern. The Dominion dreadnought broke in two, its debris scattering into the void. Panic rippled through their formation. Fighters swarmed the Revenant, firing wildly, but she was already moving. One moment she was ahead of them, the next she was gone, cloaked, invisible, a phantom in the middle of their own capital airspace. Explosions blossomed in perfect rhythm, taking out cruisers, carriers, weapons platforms. Every strike was surgical. Every kill was clean. From my platform, I watched the Dominion's invincible fleet collapse in less than 10 minutes. People around me, humans, yes, but also other conquered species, stared with wide, unbelieving eyes. Some began to cheer. Others just wept. The comms crackled again. We were never gone. We were sharpening the blade. Later, we learned the truth. The Revenant had survived that last battle, but instead of fleeing home, she'd gone deeper into the 11th Nebula, a place so hostile the Dominion wouldn't follow. For 100 years, Cade and his crew had lived there, scavenging, upgrading, testing new weapons. Generations had been born aboard her. They'd learned to hunt in the dark. By the time they emerged, she wasn't just a stealth warship anymore. She was something else, something the Dominion had no defense against. The destruction of the parade fleet shattered the illusion of Dominion invincibility. Within weeks, rebellions broke out on half a dozen worlds. Dominion governors suddenly became open to negotiation. The High Command issued a statement calling the Revenant a rogue element, but they avoided her entirely. No one knows where she is now. Some say she returned to the 11th Nebula, back to the shadows that kept her alive. Others believe she's moving between resistance fleets, training them, arming them. All I know is this: the Dominion doesn't hold their Victory Day parades anymore. Last night, I sat by the window in my own quarters, looking up at the stars. My son asked me if the Revenant is real. I told him the same thing my father told me. One day, she'll come back. And when she does, the stars will tremble.